So let's consider an example that's a little more analytical this time, and I'm going to show you how you can insert domain knowledge into IN-SPIRE and give it the capability to emphasize your terms of interest so that you can influence the galaxy visualization and make the documents arrange themselves in ways that highlight your terms of interest. So for this example, I'm going to use the Stegosaurus dataset. This is from the Threat Stream Generator program. This is a PNNL project here that develops fictitious datasets for testing. And so everything in this dataset is fictional and synthetic. What they've done is taken news articles and inserted a fictitious threat. So there are about 230 documents, text documents. I've put them into IN-SPIRE and it looks something like this. So now we have nice clusters, but and I guess they are what you might expect it to be from news articles from a small town paper. City council stuff, students in schools, the city is in a valley, sports and obituaries. But none of this stuff is really doesn't really jump out about the kinds of threats that are in it. Now this dataset comes with a couple of informational documents that you might consider to be your domain knowledge, and it also gives you a clue to what's inside, what the threat is, so that you can finish it quickly. One of them is an overview of South American terrorist organizations, and so it lists each of the organizations, their activities, some of their members, the countries they're active in, things like that. And then the other thing that we have is a document about dangerous chemicals, so things that are either naturally occurring or are used as biological weapons. And it has their background and how people could become exposed to them and the types of symptoms that you might see from those. So based on the knowledge that I'm probably going to need to use these things, what I want to do is I want to use some of this information to influence IN-SPIRE into showing me clusters that are related to these topics. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to look in this Viewpoints menu. So when you first open the Manage Viewpoints window, it's empty because you don't have any viewpoints yet. So let's learn about how to put some in. So a viewpoint is made up of one or more lists, and each list is made up of one or more terms. And so let's start off by just making a viewpoint about, it's not technically correct, but let's just call it chemical weapons. So you just type the name in and add it, and you'll notice over here on the left now it's showing me the relationships. So whatever I have highlighted, this will change to show me how it's connected to everything else. So for each chemical weapon I have, I want to make a list, and then for each chemical I want to make a list of things I know about that. So one of them was arsenic. So I can add arsenic as a list, and now I can add a bunch of terms that I might expect to find in documents that are related to arsenic. So if I go back to my document, here's arsenic. So causes severe gastrointestinal signs and symptoms, vomiting, abdominal pain, diarrhea. So I might take some of these terms and I can copy and paste them. I can type them in. Definitely going to copy and paste diarrhea because I can never spell it. Now, if you have these in a text file somewhere else already, you can import a whole text file in here. You can select multiple words if you have them in a list and then paste them in here. Several ways to get terms in here. And so basically what you're trying to do is you want to make multiple lists, and each list has multiple terms that just relate to the topic of that list. And so, you know, we might make another one for E. coli and start adding terms here. And then we can do the same. We can make another viewpoint for terrorists. Okay, and then we can start making terrorist organizations that were in our file. Shining future. And then we would do the same thing. So for each one we would make a list of terms. And so like any good cooking show, rather than having you watch me type all this stuff and paste all this stuff out, I'm going to show you a completed one and we'll go on from there. And here it is. Here's the completed viewpoint. So you can see I've made several lists over here, and each viewpoint uses the lists that are checked. These are the lists I have checked for this viewpoint, and for each one of those I have things in the list. Oh, it looks like this is one I had that I typed in here. There we go. And I also have a list of the terrorists. And so you can see the things that I put in, the terms that I put in for each of the lists. Now what's nice about having all of your lists all together is that at any time you could make a new viewpoint. I don't know, just for fun we'll call it all, and then you can check all of them. And so you can make one viewpoint that has multiple lists in it. We'll just delete that. Okay, so now I'm going to click Done, and we can close this document. So now all we've done so far is just manage the viewpoints. We've just set them up. We haven't actually applied them to this data set yet. So what we need to do now is we're going to attach the viewpoint to this data set. And so the attach window comes up, asks us which one we want to attach. Let's do chemical weapons first. Do attach. Now this is going to let you know that some of the terms aren't in your data set. This is going to happen probably all the time you use it, because you want to put in lots of terms about a certain topic, and so they're not going to be in every data set that you look at. So this just lets you know that some of them aren't in there. The other thing this list is going to have in it is multi-word phrases. So these phrases have spaces in between them, and until you reprocess the data set or process a new one, it won't find any of those. And I'll show you in just a minute how we're going to reprocess. Okay, so now that I've attached it, it attaches up here. You can see the binoculars, and it lists the viewpoint that I have selected. And then when I turn this on, watch the area of the galaxy here and look at the peak labels that change. Okay, so now you can see we have a different grouping. Some of them stayed together, like the funeral, obituaries. Some of the sports stayed together. But you'll notice we got this cluster in the middle here with BSE. So if I select those documents, we can read through some of these, and so we see Mad Cow, we see there's an FDA investigation that was canceled. Here's a chemical agent spill with a worker who is hospitalized. That's something we're going to want to look at. And here's a Shining Future leader. Shining Future was one of the terrorist organizations that we put in. And all those documents clustered together. So now it's not always going to be that your viewpoints will make everything cluster together, but the important thing is that what we've done is influenced the way that the galaxy has clustered these documents. Now if I leave these selected and then turn it off, they'll still be selected, and you can see where they were originally. So you can see they were quite spread out in different clusters. I would have had to use other techniques to try to find those. Now we can also attach the terrorist one. Same dialog letting us know some of the terms aren't in there. So now when I turn on the terrorist one, so now you can see I get a different cluster here, UNHCR, Bohaya Wing, and then you can see where some of the other ones fell. So if I select those, then I can start reading, and I can just read these 13 documents, and I've solved this data set before, and I can let you know that a lot of the high quality documents are in this grouping right here. So that's the power of viewpoints. One last thing, you'll notice that in the quick view panel we now have the matching binoculars here. Any of the words that are in our lists, I'm scrolling too fast, any of the words that are in our list will show up with X's, and since it's a column header you can also sort by those, and so you can see which words showed up and what effect they had on the current selection. Now I mentioned phrases before, To IN-SPIRE, a phrase is any terms that have more than one word in them. So, for instance, National Liberation Army would be a phrase to IN-SPIRE, and it normally wouldn't pick those up. It would see those as 3 separate words. But if we check this box here, use viewpoint phrases in newly created data sets, what happens is that in the dataset editor, whenever we make a new data set, it'll automatically use those as phrases and it'll recognize them. If you want to do it on a data set you already have open, then you can go to the dataset editor and hit edit. If it's the open data set, you have to close it. And then you can just hit finish here, but I want to show you where it's putting those. So over here is current phrases, and here are all those multi-word phrases that I had used in my viewpoint lists. And so now it will take those into account and use those as terms. And then when you hit finish, your data set will initialize, and when it becomes available, then you can open it again and go back into your analysis.